The Nintendo Switch 2 is finally here, and 2026 marks Pokemon's 30th anniversary. That means one thing. We could be about to see one of the craziest Pokemon lineups ever. Today, I'm diving into what I think will get this console generation. From long-awaited remakes, to new experiments, and maybe even a few surprises no one's talking about. Looking back, Pokemon's usually kept a pretty structured release pattern. The Game Boy systems each had two main waves of titles, while the DS era had four major releases across two generations. The Switch era is where things started shaking up a bit. Kicking things off with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Officially Gen 7, but to me they feel a bit more like the start of Gen 8. Let me know what you think in the comments. Then came Sword and Shield, massive sellers and the first to bring paid DLC to the franchise. We got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl from Ilka, and the experimental Legends Arceus, which shook up the traditional turn-based formula. Finally, Gen 9's Scarlet and Violet took second place in franchise sales, before Legends ZA bridges the shift from Switch 1 to 2. Not to mention we also got quite a few spin-off titles making returns. So with the Switch 2, we're yet again stepping into uncharted territory. Game Freak and the Pokemon Company have a massive anniversary, a new console, and a fanbase eagerly awaiting their next announcement. Before we look at what's next, let's quickly recap what we already know we're going to see on the new console. Legends ZA looks to continue the 9th generation and yet again shake up the traditional gameplay we've come to know by adding real-time battling in zones all over Lumio City. The game looks to be adding more story to Zygarde, a Pokemon introduced in Gen 6 but got quite a lot of attention in Gen 7. The game also brings back some characters from X and Y, like AZ and his Floette, Team Flare's Mabel, and Emma from the post-game story with Luca. Another major title coming is Pokemon Champions. This game looks like it's going to be where competitive lives from now on. This allows Game Freak to potentially change up the traditional formula of the games even more without taking anything away from how competitive events are played out. So, what's next? How is Pokemon going to progress from here? Here are my predictions. Firstly, let's go for the Johto region. The Let's Go games felt more like a spin-off made to try and bring players from Pokemon Go over to the more traditional games, but I think it also has the potential to become its own series that returns to regions even after the traditional remakes. Also, even with the traditional remake, it's still been over 15 years since we stepped foot in Johto, so in some way, shape or form, I think we're definitely due for another trip to the region that introduced me to the Pokemon franchise. Next up is the highly anticipated Gen 5 remakes. I'm honestly kinda scared to see these games release. In a previous video, I expressed this mainly because of the fact Ilka will more than likely be helming these remakes, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl weren't exactly fan favourites. So the idea of them tackling Unova really doesn't sit well with me. I'm hoping these games get the time and care that they deserve. Hopefully these games get a style similar to Sword and Shield, modern character models, less blocky routes, and a world that actually feels alive. Unova deserves nothing less. Another set of remakes I've seen a lot of people talk about online and beg and plead Game Freak for are the NSO versions of all the previous Pokemon titles, sort of similar to what they did for Gen 1 and 2 on the 3DS. And honestly, I don't see this happening at all. I could definitely see more of the spin-off titles coming back via the services like they have been. Even Colosseum and Gale of Darkness are making a return via these services. Personally, my most anticipated title to be included on NSO would be Pokemon Pinball for the GBA. Next up, the big one, Gen 10. My hope is that Game Freak will stick with Scarlet and Violet's open world formula, but refine it. Smoother performance, better cities that return to feeling alive and purposeful, and more natural wild areas. I wouldn't be surprised if they push the scale even further now that they've got more powerful hardware to work with. Let's just hope we don't have another wild area tree argument or Gen 9 performance issue on our hands. Finally, something I lightly touched on earlier, we haven't been back to the Johto region in over 15 years. Now if Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were one-offs, my next prediction would be for the next Legends game to take place in Johto. Now if we get it on Switch 2 or not, who knows, but I think it's deserving of the next Legends title for sure. There's so much lore and history in the region and to be packed to the brim with content. From the legendary dogs, to the history between Lugia and Ho-Oh, the burned tower, the ruins of Alph, the Sinjoh ruins, and the list goes on and on. I think this could make for an absolutely massive game with such a huge scale. Nothing we've ever seen before. So, in conclusion, Let's Go kicks us off. Gen 5 remakes with a modern flair, Generation 10 building upon the foundations that Scarlet and Violet set up so well, and an absolutely filled to the brim Legends game focusing on the rich history of the Johto region. If Game Freak and the Pokemon Company pull this off, we could be looking at one of the most exciting and packed Pokemon generations we've ever had. But now I want to know, what's your ideal lineup for the Switch 2? Will Pokemon try and continue a traditional route for releases, or are they just going to go off the rails? Let me know what you think below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe, as it helps me out heaps. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.